Order the regular session of the Bossier Parish School Board for August 6th, 2020. We will have the prayer by Philip Dees, pastor at North Point Community, and the Pledge of Allegiance by Adam Bass. But first, we'll start with the superintendent's. Any comments that you have?
Thank you, President Bamberg. I'd like to ask you to keep Para from TL Roads, Latasha Cummings and her family in your prayers. Latasha's son, Demarion Cummings, a 2008 graduate of Bossier High School, passed away on July 27th in a drowning after he had rescued several other children. So I want to thank him for his selflessness and courage, and keep that family in your prayers. Also, Airline High School teacher and coach Mark Lambert had a heart cath procedure yesterday. And then also, as always, we're about to start school here in Bossier Parish. We want to keep those that have been affected by COVID directly and indirectly in our prayers, and the children and employees as we move forward. Thank you, President Bamberg.
And as Philip comes up to do our prayer, I'm going to take just a moment to, I got some stats about what North Point Community has done for our parish and students and just our parish in general. And this community church, North Point Community, has given 3,000 new uniforms this year to the back to school uniform drive. Over the past 8 years, they've donated 10,000 new uniforms and a little over 15, that's including the gently used ones. I was part of this service with them, but they served at 4 of the Bossier Schools grab-and-go feeding sites for 8 weeks when we went down for COVID at spring break of last year. So they stepped up, and I think they actually helped communicate that to the other churches that stepped up and helped us out with that deal. And they are in a 9-week partnership with Bossier Schools and Food Bank in Northwest Louisiana, and gave away 1,272 meals to children in our parish. And since the beginning of March, North Point has given out over 56,000 meals through the distribution of family meal boxes for the weekend. 12,000 families given fresh produce and dairy boxes. And then I was also part of this. In the middle of the summer, they gave away 75,000 pounds of chicken to 3,000 families provided by farmers to families. And the only saving grace is he brought up 2 18-wheelers that were air cooled, and they were 32 degrees in there, so when you took a break, you just go sit in the unit for a little while. But so Pastor Philip, man, we're pleased to have you here this evening. Appreciate what you do for our community, and we'd love for you to pray for our system.
Absolutely. Well, let's bow our heads. Father, we thank you so much for the men and women that have gathered in this room. Thank you for their leadership. Thank you for their heart and their desire to make a difference and an impact in our children's lives. Father, I pray that you would lead them and guide them. God, in this season that is truly unprecedented for each and every one of us, God, I pray you give them wisdom. I pray you give them grace. Father, I pray that you would give them strength and perseverance during this time. God, I just pray your hand of favor and blessing upon everyone in this room. And God, I pray that we would be able to do more than just educate children, but God, that we would be able to create a better pathway for them into the future. In Jesus' name, amen.
And, item 1.02, approval, can't even read this thing. Approval of the minutes of the regular session of the board for July 16th, 2020. Motion by Mr.
Second.
Cheatham, second by Ms. Brotherton. Please vote. Motion's unanimous. Item 1.03, approval of the minutes of the special session of the board for July 28th, 2020.
So moved.
Motion by, who made the motion? Mr. Newman, second by Mr. Bass. Please vote. Motion's unanimous. Item 1.04, approval of the agenda for the regular session of the board for tonight, August 6, 2020.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Brotherton.
Mr. President,
Yes.
do we amend after we approve the agenda?
Where's our legal counsel? We want to add an agenda item tonight. Do we need to add that before we approve the agenda? Or we have,
You can add it at any point.
okay,
But
approving the agenda and then we'll amend the agenda?
Fine.
you can do it, but at any time you can add it. It's unanimous.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and approve the agenda since it's in print?
Yeah.
And then we'll have an amended agenda. So looking for a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Brotherton, a second by
Second.
Mr. Dean. He raised his hand. Please vote. Keep passing my buddy, Mr. Bullard, over.
That's fine, I'm used to it.
Item is unanimous. We'll do the add after the recognition. So we'll move to 2.01, a recognition of newly appointed administrators, presented by Mitch Downey, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Bamberg. We have 4 people we want to recognize tonight. The first is Ms. Shelley Bim. She's an 18-year educator, been in middle school for 5 years, elementary for 10. She was an instructional coach at Bel Air Elementary for the past 2 years. She was the 2012 Legacy Elementary Bossier Parish Region 7 Teacher of the Year. She has several accolades. Her husband is retired Coach Don Bim, who was an outstanding coach and educator himself. And they have 2 grown children, Kellen and Hayden. Both are graduates of Bossier Parish Schools and Benton High School. Miss Bim, she is the new assistant principal at Bel Air Elementary.
Good evening, President Bamberg, members of the board, Superintendent Downey, Assistant Superintendents Bourgeois and Rowland. Thank you so much for this opportunity to serve as Ms. Colson's assistant principal at Bel Air Elementary. I come from a long line of educators. And when I was growing up, I listened to their conversations as they were talking about their jobs. And one of the things that I took away from that is that education is a continually improving field, and it asks a lot of improvement of those who are in the field. And so over my last 17 years, going on 18 years as an educator in Bossier Parish, I've worked really hard to invest and improve in myself. And I've also been incredibly blessed to be, did that turn off? Great. I've also been incredibly blessed to be encouraged and led and invested in by some amazing Bossier Parish administrators. So I'd also like to thank Ms. Carolyn Moody, Ms. Pam Williamson, Dr. Gegg, Dr. Machin, Mr. Almasy, Ms. Jennifer Burris, and Ms. Alicia Colson, of course. I promise to work diligently to make sure that all the kids at Bel Air win. I'd also like to thank my family, my husband, Coach Don Bim, retired, my daughter Kellen, and my son Hayden. He couldn't be here today. He is currently stationed in Mississippi. Thank you.
I want to make sure I had the right person. The next honoree is a product of Bossier Schools. She attended Halton Schools before Northwestern State University. She earned her master's degree in supervision leadership at Louisiana Tech. Started her career at Benton Elementary in '04. Then went to Halton, Platt Elementary. 2015, went to Apollo as an instructional coach. Miss Ashley Sanchez, she is the new assistant principal at Apollo.
Thank you, Mr. Downey, and school board members, Dr. Bourgeois and Mr. Rowland. I'm not sure where Mr. Rowland is, so thank you. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity that you're allowing me to have to serve the community of Apollo. I'm very excited about it. When I was in 4th grade, I sat in a classroom and I fell in love with my teacher. She inspired me to do so many things. So when I came back to Bossier Parish, as a teacher, I immediately reached out to her and told her, I did it. I've met my dream. I've met my goal. I'm just like you minus the red hair. I was so excited. Then years later, I went back to Platt as a teacher, and I fell in love with Kathy Turner's leadership. And I knew from that moment I wanted to be like her. So I was so excited to tell her that once again, I've met my goal, and I just appreciate them inspiring me. I am beyond excited to work with Melanie Watts. She's invested in me in the last 5 years. She has helped me become a leader at Apollo, and I just cannot wait to soar with her. My mother and my father-in-law are here, and I just want to tell them thank you for all of your support. My little boy is here. His name's Wyatt. He is at Apollo with me, and thanks, little man, for giving up some of your summer so Mommy could go back to work. And, of course, I want to thank my husband who has supported me and prayed for me and just cheered me on along the way for this. So just thank you, and I'm just really excited.
Our next honoree is a product of Bossier Parish Schools as well, graduated as valedictorian at Parkway High School. Been in the classroom for over 10 years, served both at Parkway and Airline as a math teacher and coach. And he cannot wait to serve his community as a new assistant principal at Parkway High School, Mr. Stephen Verbko.
Good evening. First, I'd like to start off by thanking Superintendent Downey and the board. I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I'd like to thank Coach Williams and Miss Gray for giving me the opportunity and believing in me and just kind of showing me the ropes this last couple weeks as I've learned and transitioned in this new position. You know, when I started in this parish over 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to be hired by Assistant Superintendent Dr. Bourgeois and really learn a lot of great things under her. And I've also had the opportunity to work under Assistant Superintendent, Miss Rowland. And so I've been blessed to really work under some great administration and learn a lot. So I'm going to take those things and apply them. And I look forward to serving the Parkway community and, serving the students in that area. I'd like to recognize my family, my wife, Andy, my 3.5-year-old Claire. I have a 9-month-old daughter, Colleen. My mom is here tonight. She works at Apollo. And I think we looked at it the other day, and we have 9 family members that work in the parish. My dad's at Bibstool, my mom's at Apollo, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are both at Airline, my sister-in-law and sister are both at Legacy. And so, we're definitely proud members of this parish, and I look forward to working hard for Parkway High School. So thank you so much.
Our next honoree can't keep a job. Every time he turns around, he's getting promoted. He was assistant principal at Parkway for 1 year, assistant principal at Elm Grove for 2 years. Before that, he was the head basketball coach at Bossier High, where they won 2 state championships. Also coached at Northwood, Benton Middle, and he has a whole list of accomplishments and accolades, and along with his abilities, he is also a fantastic human being. Mr. Jeremiah Williams, the new principal at Parkway High School.
I feel so blessed to be here today. I thank God in his divine providence that he was good to me in the sense that he allowed me to progress as I have. So I'm just thankful to be here. I'm thankful for those that have impacted me along the way. Thankful for the board and for Superintendent Downey and Assistant Superintendent Rowland and Dr. Bourgeois and just all those that have had an influence in my life. Ms. McCauley and her wisdom through the years. I started in Bossier Parish in '99, and I never thought that one day I would be a principal in Bossier Parish, but I'm thankful and I'm looking forward to serving, continuing to serve the South Bossier community. And one thing I can promise is that I'm going to work extremely hard to serve our school and our community, that we can be the best possible school that we can be. I'm thankful for my journey and all the many principles that I've subconsciously gleaned from over the years and watching their example. I'm thankful for my administrative staff, Verbka, who's hit the ground running. He's doing a phenomenal job for us, and Miss Gray for her leadership and just giving me advice and standing by my side. So I'm thankful to her. Thankful for my family that's here. My wife, who's my sounding board when I come home through all these years of coaching and everything else. She gets some of me sometimes that it's not the best part of me at times, but she loves me in spite of. So I'm thankful for her and my son that's up there, little Benjamin. And most of all, I want to thank God for my mom, who was the biggest influencer in my life. A single parent mother who had an older son in 1973 and another one in '75 before she was 18, and she raised us with integrity and to have pride in what we do. And when I look at my brother, who was a senior chief in the Navy and a leader of men and served his country, and retired and still serving in that capacity, and then their baby boy was able to excel to be a principal of a high school, I think she did a phenomenal job with her kids. So she's my biggest hero and my biggest influence. I thank y'all tonight. I look forward to this year. I'm optimistic, looking forward to serve the community, even in the midst of some crazy times. I'm optimistic about the future at Parkway. I'm thankful for the leadership that leads with integrity, even in times of turmoil. And I really do believe, and I'm going to be quiet, I'm sorry, I really believe that true leadership can be is evident in times of conflict. It's easy to be a great leader when everything's going well, when it's comfortable and convenient. But when you're able to lead, as I've seen this board and this central office staff have led during this time, I'm just thankful for the leadership that I've seen here in Bossier Parish. So thank you all. I appreciate everything.
I want to take a moment to congratulate these four individuals, man. A lot of them are down in my neck of the woods, down in South Bossier, and I think anybody listening online or in the crowd can understand why Coach Williams his career path looks like it does at this point in his life. So, what a super guy. And then on a side note, I talked with Coach Verbka out there a little bit earlier, and he already buys into the Parkway thing, and he said that, hey, look, the next sport is cross country, and so he said, I want to be part of putting Adam Bass in a cross country uniform for Parkway due to our bet with football game last year. So he already gets the whole Parkway airline thing, and so we'll have a good time with that. So congratulations to those four.
Can I respond real quick?
No, item 2.0. Yeah.
I just think I need to say we made an awful hire based on his resounding recommendation. I think we should have hired his mother up here, and I just want to give her some more credit. Ma'am, you did an amazing job. What an incredible speech. So thank you so much for giving him to our parish. So, thank you.
Superintendent Downey.
I just want to add, they're obviously all four outstanding. They have their own list of accomplishments. Don Bim is up in the balcony. He served Bossier Parish for many years. He's an outstanding coach and teacher. And now his wife gets this opportunity to be assistant principal of Bel Air. What an incredible family who've contributed greatly to Bossier Parish. And we just want to thank you for you and your family, Coach Bim.
He had some good players too, Coach, that he used to have.
And me and Verka got something in common. We were both valedictorians at PHS. Don't tell nobody, Doc. All right. After that lie, we'll move to 2.02. I mean, this kind of shows that we're coming back to life in Bossier Parish. We're having recognition. Bossier Parish Schools, good news. I think for the first time since spring break, maybe. So, welcome back, Ms. Sonia Bell's Public Relations Liaison, for some good news for Bossier Parish.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downey, to all of our board members and everybody here this evening. It truly is wonderful to be back before you this evening. It has been a long time, and now we are getting ready to return to school. But because the 2019-20 school year ended, well, unlike any other before, we didn't get the chance to properly recognize a couple of our Bossier Parish Schools superstars. So before starting the new school year, we wanted to take this opportunity to be able to honor them. So in March, right before we went on spring break, before COVID turned our world upside down, we had the pleasure to award Parkway lead special education teacher Dawn Vaughn with the Gold Star Award. And Lillian Holly, our director of special education, calls Ms. Vaughn a teacher who is a leader and problem solver. She is also compassionate. She works with our toughest students who have many challenges, and she gets them across the finish line. Many of our students that others would have given up on credit Ms. Vaughn with helping them to graduate. Her colleague, Shelley Corcoran, cannot sing Vaughn's praises enough. She said that Dawn's ability to get the most challenging students to accomplish things they didn't think possible, having a gift for forming a rapport with all of the students she works with is just phenomenal, and she calls Ms. Vaughn a miracle worker. Ms. Vaughn said that each student has taught her something during her career, pointing out that each one of them has endured disappointment in some way, and that the key she has found to reaching them is simply listening, because each has a story to tell, and just like all of us, they just want somebody to listen to them. So it's those connections that have led to many, many success stories during Dawn Vaughn's career. And it's those success stories that she keeps very close to her heart. And it's why Dawn Vaughn was overwhelmingly nominated and chosen as our Gold Star winner for the month of March. Now, she was unable to be with us tonight, but she is watching right now on our live stream. So if you will, please join me in congratulating Miss Dawn Vaughn, our Gold Star from the month of March. So that was right before spring break, and as you know, we didn't come back. COVID sent us all home, but that did not stop Ruth Hill from making sure that her English learner students' needs at Princeton Elementary were still being met. Even though our school doors were shuttered, Paula Taylor described how Mrs. Hill remained a beacon of light, and she went to every one of her students' homes with books and care packages. Many of her students' parents work in the service industry, and they lost their jobs. So Mrs. Hill challenged her friends to donate gift cards for those families to make sure that they had food on their tables and that they were provided for with other necessities. Very few of her students had internet or access to technology. So Mrs. Hill conducted a book drive to keep them reading while away from school. And she also Zoomed each day with those that could connect so she could keep them engaged. And though the last few months have certainly been a time of change and uncertainty, Mrs. Hill's love and concern for her students remained a constant and certainly an inspiration for us all. And it could not be left unnoticed. So since we couldn't stage a Gold Star surprise at her school like we normally do, dozens of Mrs. Hill's colleagues, friends, and students formed a car parade and filed past her house. It was quite the surprise as she was announced the April Gold Star winner. If we can roll that video there. A Gold Star sponsor, Bossier Federal Credit Union, also had representatives there. They had a congratulatory sign placed out there in her front yard, and she was presented with a plaque. It was a lot of fun because she was actually on a Zoom call that Mr. Downey was silently listening in on, and then he announced her being the winner and congratulated her. And by the way, we talked about the books that she collected and provided for her students, and that caught the attention of Bossier Federal Credit Union because that led to another surprise. They purchased all the books on her Amazon wish list to be able to give even more books to her English learner students to sustain them throughout the shutdown on into the summer. And as one colleague put it, her selflessness is beautiful. And I hope that we all work towards being more like Ruth Hill. Would you please help me in congratulating our April Gold Star winner, Ruth Hill. Come on up. I'm going to have her join us, and Jill Valentine from Bossier Federal Credit Union is also joining us here. And she was in, of course, on the big surprise and presented a plaque and goodies, and she has something else for you here today. This is an Award of Excellence medal that we want to be able to bestow on you for going above and beyond and truly being that beacon of light for our students and going above and beyond and reaching out to them in their greatest time of need. Congratulations. We're so glad that you're a part of our family. And I do want to echo your sentiments, President Bamberg, about the support that North Point Community Church has lent to our school system. Just a brief anecdotal story today. We had a family reach out in need of uniforms and school supplies, a single mom with 3 children. And because of North Point's generosity, we were able to meet those needs. And that's where they're being able to make such a profound impact in our community. They donated 20 boxes of uniforms to our homeless and migrant liaison for that program, in addition to covering the needs at several of our schools, outfitting all of our students with all the uniforms and the school supplies that they need for this school year. So thank you again to North Point Community Church, and as you also mentioned, for staffing our emergency feeding program that extended on into the summer, making sure that no child was left behind. So thank you to North Point. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Sonia. It's good to have some another recognitions for good news in the Bossier Parish School Board meeting. So at this point, I would like to go ahead and let's make I'll entertain a motion to add the agenda item for Ms. Bamberg on the permission to advertise the budget for 2020-2021 school year.
Mr. President, I'll make the motion that we amend the agenda to handle that item.
Motion by Mr. Bullard.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bass. And it must be unanimous to add it to the agenda, so please vote. Motion is unanimous. It is added to the agenda. And Ms. Bamberg, we'll add that right before 3.03. That way you take the mic, you can just stand up there for the next however long you're going to be there. So we'll go to 3.01, a request approval of the 2020-2021 Bossier Parish School Board Program of Professional Personnel Evaluation, PPPE, presented by Sherry Poole, Director of Human Resources.
Thank you. Good evening. I come to you tonight with our revised Program of Professional Personnel Evaluation document. This is a document that aligns with Bulletin 130 put out by Bessie each year to evaluate our professional employees in Bossier Parish. It also has the register of all professional employee job descriptions that we update annually. Jobs change over the years. Things change with new updates, new mandates. So job descriptions are revised and updated each year to more accurately reflect the position. So those have been done, and most notably are the teacher job descriptions, in which we have added the virtual components to the job description because we are changing and shifting with the challenges that we have, but we want to meet those challenges and make sure our boys and girls have the right platform that they need to meet their needs in our learning environments. So virtual descriptions have been added to all instructional jobs, teachers, different types of teachers, and counselors and librarians. So we ask that you approve this document so we can use this for our guidance for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
Who was that? Motion by Mr. Newman.
Mr. Dean.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at that chair when working Mr. Dean. Second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see y'all.
Item 3.02, a request proposal of a mandated 10-cent meal price increase for school year 2020-2021, presented by Ms. Carla Horton, Supervisor of Child Nutrition. Hey, Ms.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downing, and the board. I'm here tonight just to present a mandated 10-cent meal price increase, and that is to begin the process to reduce the amount that child nutrition is supplemented from the general fund. We haven't had a meal price increase in quite many years, and so we're asking for just a 10-cent meal price increase, please.
Question?
When you say a good many years, when is the last time we had an increase?
I believe it was 2013.
It's been 7 years? Okay.
I got a question. Now, it says it's mandated. Is it, how is that?
That is from LDOE and USDA. Look at all of our expenses, and we do, it's called a paid lunch equity tool, and they tell us what we should be charging, and we compare it to what we are charging. And you can do it two ways. You can get it supplemented by the general fund, which is what we had been doing under Mr. Rougeau's direction, or you can increase your meal price. Your meal price.
So if we take that option, then it would be, okay, very good. Ms. Brotherton?
Yes. Could you tell us how much the prices are now and what they will be after the increase?
Right now, breakfast is $1.35, so it'll go up to $1.45. Elementary lunch is $2, and it'll go up to $2.10. Middle school lunch is $2.10, and it'll go up to $2.20. And high school is $2.20, and it'll go up to $2.30. So it's still quite a great bargain for the nutritious meal that you get with the 5 meal components.
But we also have all those schools that children will not pay anything, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
23 of our schools are CEP, which means they'll get all free lunch and free breakfast. And then our other schools all have the opportunity to apply for free and reduced lunch if they qualify. So that doesn't exclude the schools that are paying to get free and reduced lunch. They just have to put in a specific meal application, and that can be done at any time throughout the school year on myschools.apps.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Ms. Brotherton. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Bass.
Second.
Second by Ms. Brotherton. Please vote. Hey, you beat him that time.
You gotta be fast.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Horton.
Thank you.
All right, we'll handle the added item, Ms. Bamberg. The add item is a request for permission to advertise the budget for the 2020-2021 school year.
And I'd just like to remind you that since this was an added item, before y'all take action and vote, you need to ask for public comment.
Comment, okay. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to add this to the agenda. Let me get this off. What I'm asking for permission tonight is to be able to advertise the budget availability and the public hearing for the budget for 2020-2021. It's strictly the advertisement at this point is what we're asking for permission for.
Second by Mr. Bachhaus. Any public comment concerning this agenda item since we added it? Hearing none, we will please vote. Motion carries. We may need to get you one of those mats for under your feet for when you stand for a long time. But second item, where are we at here? Item 3.03, a request approval of the final revised budget for 2019-2020, presented by Ms. Bamberg, CFO.
All right. Tonight, we're presenting the final 2019-2020 budget for y'all's consideration and approval. This is for the general fund, this is the same exact budget that I previously sent out a few weeks ago, so y'all have seen this for a long period. There have been a few very small changes on some of the supplementary budgets, but there's no change to the general fund from what I've previously discussed with the board. I did want to point out on page 10, just so that we are aware, this is the salary and insurance fund, and at the bottom you will see a note on the committed fund balance that we have for the for the health and dental benefits. And otherwise, everything's pretty much the same. Are there any questions on the budgets?
Question by Mr. Bass.
Page 10, the committed amount that's on that page, is that the 2 million that we discussed?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any further questions? Make a motion to, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the final revised budget for 1920.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Newman. Please vote. Motion is unanimous. Motion carries. Item 3.04, request consideration of application to Bond Commission for approval of bond refunds, presented by Ms. Bamberg, CFO.
I'm actually going to bring up two other people at this time. We have with us tonight Brennan Black with Foley and Judell, and we also have Nandy Thompson. He's with Government Consultants, which will be a new municipal advisor for us for this these bond refundings if we move forward, and so I'm going to bring them both up at this time. But what we're looking at doing is asking permission to apply to the Bond Commission to consider refunding these three bonds. We're not moving forward with the refunding. We're not actually doing anything other than, at this point, applying to the Bond Commission to start the process of the consideration. So I'll bring them up and let them give you some more details.
Good evening, Brennan Black with Foley and Udell, Bond Counsel. I think Nisha actually did my job for me. Raymond James has proposed a refunding of your general obligation school bonds from 2012, 13, and 14. As Nisha said, this is just employing professionals and making application to the Bond Commission for approval so that we can begin the process and start to evaluate the potential savings that are there. Also, as she mentioned, it's not obligating you to do anything at this time. We'll be coming back to you all with a resolution should this make economic sense. Also, Namdi Thompson with Government Consultants is here. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Mr. Newman?
Just to point out, like Ms. Bamberg said, this is simply an application. With that comes a $100 fee, so you will see a line item that this is a $100 fee, but in all of our research and meetings, it is going to be well worth it for us to submit this application and move forward with this process.
Okay. Ms. Bamberg, do we need a motion on that for the application, or there's just no motion?
Yes, sir. There's actually a resolution there for that, or should be.
Have a motion by Mr. Bass to adopt the resolution, second by Mr. Cheatham. Please vote. All right, please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3.05, request award of legal journal, presented by Ms. Nisha Bamberg, CFO.
I think I'm taking all y'all's time tonight. We have requested bids for the legal journal for this year. The bid that we would like to recommend is from the Bossier Parish Tribune, which has been our legal journal for the past several years. The bid that we received is the same as 2019-2020, and we'd like to recommend approving them as our legal journal.
Moved.
Motion by Ms. Brotherton.
Second.
Second by Mr. Newman. Please vote. Motion carries. Item 3.06, an update information request for insurance, presented by CFO Ms. Nisha Bamberg, Jason Allman of the Allman Group, and Michael Guyton of CHR Partnership.
Mr. Bass, do you want to share anything before we get started? Are you good?
I'm good. I added this to the agenda so we could start the discussion, and I know there's been a lot of work that's gone into this by you and Mr. Allman and Mr. Guyton, so it's your show.
We're actually going to discuss 3 different components tonight. And some of them we've discussed before, and what I'm going to have is Michael and Jason come up and present some of the details on the different programs that we're talking about. But the 3 components that we're looking at tonight are the Medicare Advantage plan that the board gave us approval to consider looking into, as well as the EGWIP program that the board has approved for us to look into, and the closed formulary that we've also mentioned to the board. And so what Jason and Michael are going to do is going to give you some details of kind of the in and out, and then I'll come back and we can discuss some of the potential savings from the different programs and how that might work financially. But I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to them to let them explain it to you. Michael, if you want to go ahead.
Did everyone get a packet that goes over the Medicare Advantage plan? If not, I gave a couple of extras. Everyone have one? Yep. So I'm just going to go over your current benefits over there on the left-hand side of the page right there. And what this is a line-by-line comparison of all the companies that quoted on your group Medicare Advantage plan. And what I want to point out are the differences, which there really are not many differences. If anything, it's a positive. But you can see right now your current retirees that have Medicare Parts A and B, their exposure is basically limited to their prescription copays of 10, 30, and 70. Everything else is covered at 100%, as long as that doctor is accepts Medicare. And Jason, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. And so that's your current program, and we're going to move over to the right there. Now, your current prescription plan, once your prescription copays reach a maximum of $4,000 out of pocket, then you're at 100% coverage. Okay, so you have no more exposure after that on your current plan. Okay, and that's a combination, your current plan of Medicare and Blue Cross working together to coordinate those benefits. Okay, Medicare is paying primary on that. Are there any questions on that, or before we move forward? Okay. To the right, you can see all the companies that have quoted on your current plan. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana had quoted on it. The differences there are they do have a $50 copay when you go into the emergency room. Copays on prescription benefits are the same copays you have today. The out-of-pocket maximum actually is less than you currently have today, so your exposure there would be around $2,500 versus, the $4,000 that's in place today. Okay. You can see their rates down there below. Aetna, same thing. The only difference with Aetna, they have a $4,000 max out-of-pocket like your current plan today on the prescriptions. Everything else is zero, just like on your current plan. Okay. Moving over to Humana. Now they had a few things that were different. If you stay in network for emergency rooms, it was $0 you were responsible for. But if you go out of network, there could be up to a $100 copay and 80% coinsurance. They also had a $4,000 max out of pocket on your prescription drugs. And last, United Healthcare, they came in and offered the same type of plan, and the difference is there. You currently have private duty nursing where it's covered at 100% with a certain exposure there. United Healthcare is giving $3,000, but they said they would actually give $10,000 for private duty nursing. And then they also have a $2,500 max out of pocket for prescription drugs. Now, all of these plans, basically, outside of your current plan, are going to give you some additional benefits. And what I mean by that, they're going to give you, I'm sure many of you have heard of Silver Sneakers. They're going to give you programs like Silver Sneakers. It may not be exactly called Silver Sneakers, depending on who you go with, but it's a free gym membership. Some of them are offering post-discharge meals at your home if you're discharged from the hospital. So they're giving you some additional benefits that you currently don't have today. Now, as far as benefits compared to what you currently have, everything is lining up, on paper, to be the same exposure you have today. And you can see the price difference at the bottom there. Are there any questions on the benefits or?
Mr. Newman.
Real quick, you have it highlighted on Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Medicare Advantage as far as the WIGs and private duty nursing. Is that highlighted for a reason that they don't offer that?
I didn't see anything in their contract. Now, whether they offered or not, I don't know. I couldn't find it in the contract. And that's, a lot of times that's an extra benefit to some of them. So, Mr. Bamberg.
If I can get my mask out of my glasses. We've discussed this and looked at this, and I think the biggest thing to me, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the board, but I would assume that some of them have the same concern I do, is that our retirees that currently have Medicare, that if we move to this and take advantage of some savings to the parish, that they are not losing a benefit. And so you and I have had a conversation about that, and that's monetary is a great part of this program, the savings of that, but it's not. But I don't want it to come to the expense of our retirees that have Medicare right now. So, is there what differences could our retirees that have Medicare see in their service, I understand this is how their deductibles work and they're out of pocket, and there's some things that are favorable for going to a Medicare Advantage plan, but I'm kind of more worried about the unfavorables that we'll get the call for and say, what happened, how does this work, what does this do, that type of situation. I know you handle some of these plans across different areas. What have been some of those items, if there are any? Could you explain some of those?
Well, so first I'll address the service question. As far as service goes, all of these group Medicare Advantage plans are graded on the service that they provide to the Medicare Advantage members. That's part of their reimbursement from the government. So if they don't give out good service, they don't have a favorable rating, their reimbursement is less. So these people actually go above and beyond what normal insurance, and I'm just being honest with you, on the commercial side, I wish they were incentivized like that as well, because these people, they call these members at their homes, they're making sure, because, let's face it, at the end of the day, it's insurance. You're going to have problems, I don't care, in your current plan, under another plan. These people break their backs to make sure that, things are taken care of in a timely fashion, and making sure that the member at the end of the day is happy. So as far as service goes, I don't think you're going to beat service. The differences you may see are in prescription copays, and we just sent off that information to all the carriers today to say, okay, who is going to benefit from this? Is their prescription copay today, if it's at the $30 copay, is it going to go down to 10, or is it going to go up to the 70? What is it going to be? We're also asking for the negative effects, because the people that have a positive effect in their copays go down, you're probably not going to hear from. It's going to be the people that, their copays go up. So we've asked for all the insurance companies to run a disruption report. Hopefully we'll have that back within a week or so, and we can actually tell you who will be disrupted by that.
Question by Mr. Bullard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you explain one thing to me, please?
Yes, sir.
We keep talking about out-of-pocket maximums.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear, 1,000, 4,000, 1,000, up at the top of the page. But then we go down to prescription maximum out of pocket, and then it's 2,500, 4,000, 4,000, and 2,500. Am I reading this correct, that this prescription out of pocket is in addition to the other out of pocket? So instead of the maximum being 1,000 in the case of Aetna, it would in fact be 5,000.
So what you, and that's very confusing. I'm going by with what they give us. So that $1,000 up at the top, in most cases you see it 4,000 over there on Humana. That's all, it's a bait and switch because you're not exposed to anything because everything is zero up there. So they're paying 100% of everything. So you can't ever meet that max out of pocket. Why they put it in there, I don't know. But as far as your prescriptions, you do have co-pays for those things. Everything else you don't. So that's where we ask the companies to come in and offer a max out of pocket where they actually can be exposed. So that's why you have the two different amounts. The one up top, the only place I think you could reach it is on a Humana or Blue Cross with a copay, but it's not going to be different than the one at the bottom. So your maximum exposure is going to really be your prescription copays, and that's what I would focus on.
Copays, and I'm sorry I'm not seeing but this is all, Mr. Bass pointing out one possible answer to my question, but that's under prescriptions.
Right.
Again, and I believe you said that, I believe you used the term the out-of-pocket maximum up at the top, or calendar, including deductible. You said that's a bait and switch.
It is because you don't have any exposure because everything's 100%. You see what I'm saying? So they can put $10,000 up there, but if they're paying 100% of everything in or out of network, that really means nothing.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Backhouse. Mike. Just behind your computer. Oh, no, it's not. Never mind.
What am I doing?
You can talk to me.
Can't hear me. All right. That's unusual. Are these numbers based on a certain amount of participants?
These numbers were based off of the enrollment that was given to us by the board. And I've asked all the companies what happens if these enrollments, the enrollment changes by plus or minus 10%. Each company has basically stated that, the enrollment depends on, what the board decides to charge. Okay, and I'm just kind of going over all of them, and all the information's in your packet. But what the board decides to charge between what they're currently paying and what this premium would be, okay, and how they do the enrollment process.
One other question, on the hospitals, do any of these people restrict what hospitals are being used, can be used?
No. If they're accepting Medicare, you can go to them. And I'll tell you that I've got plans right now with Aetna and United Healthcare. Aetna has all the local hospitals in. United does not have Willis-Knighton in. And my largest plan actually is with United Healthcare. They don't have a problem going to Willis-Knighton at all. And I checked with Willis-Knighton before this, and they said there's no problem at all. What happens is these carriers, because Blue Cross doesn't have Willis-Knighton in their Medicare Advantage network. What happens is, though, a lot of these hospitals or doctor's offices may not choose to participate in what they call a network because they don't want to have to worry about going through a prior authorization process, and they didn't sign up for that. So they get automatically paid what Medicare would be paying them if they choose not to. This benefit is the same in or out of network. So there's no difference in benefits if you go in or out of network.
Ms. Rutherford.
Okay. First of all, these numbers, I guess, you said are based on the enrollment we have with the retirees with Medicare. Is that correct?
That is what was quoted, correct.
Okay, so what's going to happen, we give them the option. From my understanding that legally we have to give them this option. We can't force this on them. Am I correct?
That's up to your legal counsel.
Well, okay.
I'm not sure about that.
Let's just say we can't, when we
Okay.
offer this. What's going to happen if we only have 20% of them decide to go with this?
And so the insurance, for the majority of insurance companies, they said it depends on, again, how you choose to enroll this. and there's several different ways you can enroll this, but also what the board decides to choose to charge them between the difference between the plans. So there's a,
Charging them premiums when they're not paying any now?
to remain, that would be up to the board, but to, remain on the current plan.
Could you repeat what you just said again? I'm sorry, Ms. Brotherton, to interrupt, but I did not understand what he just said. I want to make sure I'm real clear about charging our retirees.
Well, there's a difference. Okay, so what I'm saying is the insurance companies have come back, and there's a difference in what your current, and if you look over there to the far left, okay, you're currently right now paying $479, okay, for each retiree, okay? You can see the differences between all the other plans out there to the right. What the board just chooses to decide to charge for those differences, because clearly there's a significant difference out there to the right. Now that would be up to you all, what you all decide to charge, but that's what the insurance companies, want to be a part of and seeing what that is. Now if you want to charge them $10 for that difference, yeah, the rates can change. But if you want to charge them the actual difference, that's up to you all.
I guess, I don't even know if you can answer this. So I guess to find out which one of our retirees with Medicare wants to do this program, that we'd have to do a survey or questionnaire. I mean, we can't just assume that all of them are going to go into this if they're not forced.
So,
am I correct?
well, I have a question, and this is how I ask it, because I've been in more of these than I care to count. The two things I want to make sure of, the benefits, let's just say United Healthcare, because that looks to be the least expensive. For our retirees, and this is what matters to me most because I have somebody I very much love on the current plan, the benefits under this Medicare Advantage plan are the same or better than what they currently have.
Correct.
Do I have that right?
That is correct.
So they either have a better benefit than what they currently have on things or equal to what they currently have on things.
Correct.
So my question is if they're not giving up any benefits, so the level of care is there, their doctor's care is there and everything else, how can an insurance company afford to charge so much less and our retirees not give up any benefits?
Because they're taking advantage of a federal subsidy that the federal government gives them.
So the difference in the premium is something that's being made up on a national level on a federal government from a subsidy.
Correct. And part of that goes back to, like I was talking about earlier, the service. Part of their rating and for that subsidy is based off of the service that they provide to.
I want to be very clear, and I want to also hear this from Mr. Allman and Mr. Bachhaus. Our retirees are not giving up any benefit whatsoever. It is the same or better.
Correct.
But it's saving the school board the difference between this number and this number by doing it.
Correct.
And that is because of a federal subsidy.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Ms. Brotherton.
I just want to follow up with this. So let's say in 3, 4, or 5 years from now, this federal money goes away.
Okay.
So I'm just worried about our retirees that have Medicare. I am a retiree of this parish.
Right.
I don't have Medicare, so it's not pertaining to me.
Right.
But I do know that I have a lot of friends that have this, and I know they're good. People don't like change.
I understand.
And they're not going to, I'm going to be honest up front, I don't think this is going to be accepted by a lot of them. That's why I'm so concerned about them and what we have promised them as a parish in the past. And now we're changing this, and what worries me, it does sound great, and it probably is great, but what's going to happen in a few years from now if the federal government pulls that away? What's going to happen to them? I worry about that.
And I understand that. And so this program has been out for over 12 years. And actually, if you look at the trends, and you can Google it tonight when you go home, you look at the trends, these trends are actually going up, okay? More municipalities and unions and things like that are adopting this because they're taking advantage of it. You're taking advantage of federal subsidies today with your RDS program. There's all kinds of what ifs, but I can tell you everything is leaning this way and going this way. You can look at the Sheriff's Association, you can look at the local sheriff's offices. Other schools, in the state of Louisiana actually have these plans in place. Now, some of them mandate it, some of them do not. Now, again, that's a legal question that I can't tell you about, but there's a lot of schools actually in Louisiana that have Humana, United, Blue Cross. They're all, that have these plans in place and are very satisfied with these plans. And I'll tell you this, that 98%, I got this statistic yesterday, on United Healthcare's book of business, 98% of them are still retained with them, and not one of those plans since inception has ever gone back to another plan. And I understand. I understand.
So what could happen? Let's just say the subsidy from the federal government, because they're spending a lot of money right now and they might not be able to afford a couple of things. What if they said the subsidy shuts down? Can we go back to the plans that we currently have?
You can go back to the plan you currently have.
This became something that became unaffordable, or the subsidy stopped, or we didn't like it, or whatever. We'd always have the option to go back. And I understand we'd be going back with our hat in our hand saying, please take us back. But I just want to make sure that is an option.
Right, and I guess my big concern is I don't want to see this forced on anyone.
Well, and I think if I understand this correctly, I think part of these MA plans, Medicare Advantage plans, is they would like us to charge people to stay in their current plan, and we pay for a plan of equal benefits for them and let them make the choice of, do I want to pay, and that's yet to be determined if we should do that or want to do that or could do that or whatever, but I would assume that that's what mechanism they use to produce the enrollment, because if we left them equal, I would assume that it's not a group that likes to change, nor am I a person who likes to change. I'd stay where I'm at. So I would assume that we would have to do something as a board to get the same benefit. I'm mentioning same benefit for the $0 that they pay right now, and then make that more cost effective and attractive than what the current plan is at this point.
Correct.
Mr. Backhouse. Okay. Mr. Bullard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was talking with a gentleman this afternoon, and tell me if I understood him correctly. Right now, the school board is the advocate for our retirees. We are a level of protection, ensuring that their benefits are properly provided. If they take on Medicare Advantage, and I've heard nothing but good, I want to make that real clear. I've heard zero bad. I've heard everything is positive about this plan. And one retiree told me, he said, you'd be a fool if you didn't take advantage of it, because it saves you money, talking about the individual. But if I understood the gentleman correctly, if our retirees adopt the Medicare Advantage, then the Bossier Parish School Board ceases to have any authority, oversight, what have you. All of that transfers to, I guess, the federal government, or to the company that is providing the insurance. So we would cease to be an advocate for our retirees, or a protecting source for them. Does that make sense? Maybe I misunderstood.
It makes complete sense. So currently you're self-funded today, so you can make some decisions. On these plans, the insurance company would take over that group of benefits for those retirees. So yes, they would be making the calls on that group of retirees. But again, your benefits are going to be the same as they are today. Now, Are you going to have someone that has a problem? Yes, it's insurance. You're going to have problems as you do today, though. So you still have a third-party administrator right now managing, helping manage some of your benefits. But you have a little bit more say-so today.
Repeat, I've heard nothing but good personal testimonies from individuals that have it right now. It's all been positive, so, but sometimes things seem to be too good.
I understand.
To believe, particularly with the federal government involved. But
Madam Vice President.
I know that as far as the Medicare Advantage, it's probably the same, but as far as secondary insurance, which being self-funded, do these other companies have the bartering power for the discounts that's allowable? Every time I get an EOB, it's got discounts allowable, Blue Cross Blue Shield allowables. So do they have that power to do those amount of discounts? Because are we going to be spending more money on the back end of doing that if those discounts are available?
No, they have the discounts, and some of them, bless you, are in the network and out of the network. Where you're seeing the biggest savings on this, and I'm being 100% transparent with you, is, again, you're taking advantage of a federal program where the federal government is subsidizing these insurance companies and giving them a capitated rate, and it actually depends on the parish in which, these members are at. So each parish or county, if they live, outside Louisiana, has a different capitated rate. So that's what they're taking advantage of. And I'll be honest with you, my last 3 renewals have been nothing but decreases as well.
I think I saw your hand come up. Do you have a comment on that? You want to come up to the mic? Get you a workout in.
I was just going to answer Tammy's question. All of the pricing is based on Medicare, the Medicare allowable, which we're paying today. So it's not really a discount with Blue Cross or United. It's all, if you listen to the hospitals, if you listen to the providers, they're underpaid if they get Medicare, and that's why they need commercial business. So Medicare is probably the lowest pricing point that you're going to find, with the exception of Medicaid. Medicaid's a little bit less.
Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Myself, I have, like Mr. Bass and others, I have, family members that are on the retiree plan. Words of note to the retirees, yeah, we're going to take care of you, but at the same time, we want to have solvency within the board and within this program. If we find a way to save money now and say the federal subsidies go away, we can always revert back to a different plan, but I do think it is in our best interest to have a very in-depth review of our options out there in order to save approximately $300,000 a year. If we save $300,000 a year for 10 years and then the subsidies go away, well, we have now $3 million that we did something else with in this parish rather than just put it out the door for insurance. We're going to take care of our retirees. We pledged to do that. I think every board member here has that same pledge themselves. We also have to be good stewards of our money, and it is upon us to look at these options to see where we can improve our position financially. As long as there's no reduction in benefits, I think that is the number one deciding factor. If benefits are the same or better, then change is inevitable. My mother, smartphone. She never thought she'd get away from a landline, and now she works an iPhone, and she actually does her stuff with Medtronic on her phone now. And it took a while to change to it, but that change is always going to be there. It's always going to be there, and I think our retirees will appreciate our due diligence in looking for ways to save money and continue to put this parish in the right position financially. And then in the end, if the subsidies go away, we'll come together as a board and we'll get right back to where we were. And nothing will ever be the difference other than we were able to save millions of dollars along the way.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yeah, I just kind of want to piggyback on what Mr. Newman just said. I don't believe there's any board member up here that wants to make a change to what our retirees currently have, and I don't believe that we would if they were going to be losing benefits. But and I know I got an email earlier today that had some numbers on there that aren't on there now, but we're looking at possibly $3.7 million per year that we can save by going to this program. And if that's the case, we would not be doing our job to at least continue to get more information and look into what we can do to, one, keep our retirees' benefits as they are, and two, be better stewards of the taxpayers' money.
And I think we have some other people in here that are familiar with Medicare Advantage plans, and one is Jason Allman, who has been with us for quite a period of time and always has led us in these decisions. And I'd also like to ask you, is there a difference in benefits? Are our retirees going to see a difference in benefits? Are you familiar enough with this?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So when you go to a Medicare Advantage plan, it takes the place of Medicare A and B, and it adds in D. Okay, so today, if you look at how you operate, Medicare pays first, then the plan pays secondary because it's a retiree. So the Part A deductible applies, Part B coinsurance, Part B deductible, that's where you pick up. So today, your health plan picks up the amount that the Medicare does not. So you're picking up just supplemental. So Medicare's got an amount that they pay for that, and then y'all are paying $192 per member to get to 100% of the Medicare allowable for medical care. Okay. Then we get to a prescription drug program, and that's where the majority of the costs are coming in right now, because the majority of the costs are associated with drugs and with high costing drugs. Over time, we've always dealt with rebates and RDS, retiree drug subsidies, to help offset that, because that was the first thing that became available. So what happens here is they replace what you're doing now on a self-funded drug plan with an actual Medicare Part D program. So there's no more rebates, there's no more drug subsidy, everything's contained in a Medicare Part D program. So you've got a Advantage plan for the medical, and then you've got a Medicare Part D program that's all wrapped into what they call a Medicare Part C or an Advantage plan. So overall, what's the difference? The difference is that rather than being fee-for-service going forward, what happens is the Advantage plan gets a lump sum per person each month based on the conditions that that person has. Instead of Medicare managing and paying out the money for the claims as they come in, the insurance company does. Okay, so today you've got Medicare with no profit agenda, nothing else going on. They're paying the claims as they come in. So now they send a set amount of money to an insurance company. The insurance company dictates how that money's spent. That's the big difference, and that's probably the better answer to Adam's question over time is, what's managed care? And when we're in this situation, the insurance company becomes more of the dictator of care than in some instances the doctor. And that's, when you look at a benefit and you look at what's actually paid out, that's how it can get a rub. Now the majority of people, not a big claim, nothing going on, it's a great benefit. But you give up something for some of the savings. I like to say there's no magic in healthcare. There's cost associated with getting claims and getting them paid. And it's either coming from the board, the federal government, or the member. And how we divvy that out and how we shape it up changes it. Now, if they manage the cost of the money that they get from the federal government better than what the federal government would have done with the money, they make a lot of money. If they don't, whether or not they make money is dependable. So you look at this and there's huge savings. There's no doubt. And you give up something, a little bit of control, but you've got to look at the savings. I mean, this is a large number. And you've got to go through it and make sure the math works out and look at how it impacts people. Again, it may not impact anybody, but that insurance company is going to dictate what care flows.
Okay, so does Medicare or whoever manages our claims now, do they rubber stamp everything that comes through, or do they have a system to say no? Or
They
send
do
it
not
for
rubber stamp
authorization?
everything that
So they
comes
manage
through.
our care as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do, but there's no profit agenda with it.
So Blue Cross doesn't make a profit on the admin, or?
They
I'm
make a
confused.
profit on admin. Today, we're
Okay.
paying claims.
So it's just
They don't
claim-
make a profit on whether or not to pay claims.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Guyton. The one that I care about the most that is on this plan. Am I to believe that the benefits are the same or better for that loved one on this and what they currently have?
As I told you the other day, based on the paper, yes, it is.
Okay, so.
Absolutely.
The one that I love is not giving up anything.
Correct.
But because of the subsidy, the savings to the Bossier Parish School Board is there because of those federal subsidies.
Yes, sir.
So I've now asked you both that she's not giving up anything, so I just want to make sure that she's not giving up a single thing. It's either the same or better.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I don't know if we have a former board member in the house, so Mr. Bachhaus, good to see you again.
Look, can I ask him a question?
You sure can, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk, you hold on a second, we're going to speak, your father's going to,
So, explain it a little bit better as far as the money coming in. If I get sick, the government's already allocated a certain amount of money for me. When that money's gone, what happens?
The insurance company's still got to pay if they haven't managed the money properly.
So
Because they have
take the
taken over
money-
your
They
care.
take the money from Miss Brotherton and put it on me.
They've taken money for your care, and they've got to provide the services the same as Medicare. And again, I'm not slamming this, I'm not trying to be a no-sayer, I'm just trying to explain to you that when they get the money, they dictate where the care goes. And that's, can be a better thing, that can be a worse thing. When you ask me what's the difference, that's the difference. And if you look at benefit-wise, it's got enhanced benefits. Okay, you look at cost, there's a savings on cost. And so you give up some, you get some. In the end, it's just something you're going to have to work through. Okay, and there are going to be people that have problems, and there are going to be people that have a great issue, a great relevance from it. And how y'all charge from it, and whether or not you mandate everybody to go to it or not go to it, you know, that's a decision that we'll supply you all the information we can. Try to make sure there's no gar holes that you step in, and work through it.
But even Willis Knighton says, if you get sick, it's not a good program. If you don't get sick, it's a great program.
Well, Mr. Bachhaus, there are, good gosh, 5 years ago, there were probably 4 Medicare Advantage plans in the state. I think now there are 25, okay? There's a big growing population of them. And every managed care plan is different than the other one, and how they manage it, and how they dictate what care you get and don't get, and whether they're in a network or not in a network, and how many hoops they've got to jump through. So a particular provider talking about advantage plans, one over another, it depends on which one they're talking about, to be honest with you. It depends on the benefits.
Thank you, Judge.
okay, Ms. Brotherson?
I have 2 questions, Jason.
Yes.
First one, just about forgot what I was going to say. Will the premiums go up at all for these retirees? Will they have to pay any more out of pocket or anything like that if they go to the Advantage plan?
Today, it depends on what y'all charge, but today, if you were going to say, hey, we're going to pay X number of dollars the same for one or another, they could go this without a charge, and then there'd be a charge to stay on the current plan. If you don't give some incentive to go one way or another, nobody shifts. There is no savings, okay? Because in the end, everybody sits. They look at it and they say, I got what I've got, it's not costing me any different, sorry, board.
Right.
So, charging something for care is not bad. The majority of the plans out there, whether you look at Caddo, Bossier, Caddo, DeSoto, Lincoln, they all charge something to the retiree with Medicare. Y'all have not, ever.
No, because that was a promise made many, many years ago to.
So the ones with
retirees.
Medicare don't pay anything. The ones
Right.
without Medicare do.
Right.
And it's a reduced rate. People with Medicare have to pay $44.60 if they're on the base model of Medicare Part B, because they got to pay the Part B premium. And that Part B premium will continue if they're underneath this program. So somebody, and again, somebody that's 64 today, that's a retiree, might be paying $102 with no Medicare. Turns 65, he's got to pay the Part B premium, and then whatever y'all charge for the Advantage plan or this plan. So somebody turning 65 gets a little bit of a hit regardless. And how that plays out again. That's just going through the numbers and making sure that everybody's okay with where y'all wind up in the end. And
that are like 80. Yeah.
So,
But my second question is, let's say that all of our retirees with Medicare goes to this.
Yes.
Will that increase our administration fees that we're paying?
No,
or will that increase the active members' premiums per month? I mean, will we have to put money somewhere into that?
we ran through the numbers, and the funding that's in place today would fund the actives and retirees without Medicare correctly. So we pulled out the retirees without Medicare, and we made sure the current funding was adequate to continue funding the plan with just the retirees without Medicare and active employees. So there should not be an increase. There's some adjustment that may happen with reinsurance depending on how many people shift and what medical conditions we got going on at the time, but it's all speculation until we get closer to that day.
Thank you for answering that.
Mr. Bass?
Well, back to what you said, I got copied in on an email this week too, back to if the administration costs would go up from the runoff. Actually, Blue Cross wants our business, so they've actually even offered an inducement to take off of our admin fees in the event we were to pick this up. So it seems to be that part is in negotiation too, and I know that's an additional item, but they sent an email offering actually for those to even go down if we were to adopt this plan. And I also saw what Mr. Bachhaus had. Someone sent me a picture of that at Willis-Knighton, and the way it was explained to me by Mr. Allman and Mr. Guyton is there's a huge difference between an individual Medicare Advantage plan and a group Medicare Advantage plan, which is what we're discussing. So although those may be up there as low-cost incentives, a group Medicare plan, Advantage plan, is built much differently, is the way it was explained to me. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Most individual plans have a copay for every day you walk in the hospital, every day you see a doctor, and it builds up to an out-of-pocket of $67.50, in many cases $66.50, in many cases on the medical. And then the RX got an $8,700 or $8,100 out-of-pocket maximum. So somebody that elects a Medicare Advantage individually because it's got a zero premium, many times can find themselves, if they get sick, with some extreme expenses.
Yeah. But I just want to make sure that is not what we're looking at here for our retirees. Based
on the volume of your case and the study that they've done, they have come in and they have done away with any copays on the medical care, and have done away with any out-of-network charge. That if the doctor is going to accept Medicare, they're going to take the price that they pay.
All right, back to Mr. Bachhaus. So you've been on our board for a long time, served with you. You're kind of our on stage expert on health insurance, and Blue Cross is all over our paper here. You got anything to say about Medicare Advantage versus just value your opinion and
Thank you, Mr. Bamberg. That's Mr. Bachhaus.
That's right.
So, I'm not big enough to wear those shoes yet. So thank you though. No, it's different standing on this side. It's the first time I've been up since I've been off the board, and I appreciate you giving me the time to say anything about Blue Cross. First of all, thank you for the long-term relationship. We've tried to do the best, look out for the best for the board. We've tried to reduce costs where needed by managing medical expenses, and we continue to do that. We're always looking at either closed formularies, different medical programs, case management, disease management, and so forth. In fact, I want to toot the horn of Shreveport. We have 2 nurses that go out and see your retirees or your members in case they have an issue, if especially a large claimant. They get a list of large claimants a day. And if somebody needs to meet them if they need help at the doctor's office, it's usually a retiree, or at the pharmacy, they'll actually meet them at the pharmacy, walk them through, be an advocate, because some of these folks, if you open up their cabinets, they're taking 12, 15 prescriptions, and if something's confusing to them or doesn't look right, they can always reach out to this nurse. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, that's available, that's in Shreveport, that's designated for all clients in Shreveport. Moving on to the Medicare Advantage, we're newly into the Medicare Advantage program. There is an incentive for insurance carriers to get into the Medicare Advantage program, and it's the subsidy. It is the federal government subsidy. The government's looked at it and said, okay, we have Medicare, we are collecting taxes from each person on Medicare, but we may not be managing as good as an insurance carrier, so we're going to set this money aside and say, hey, Blue Cross, United, Aetna, we're going to give you a certain amount of money for you to take on that responsibility. Any government program, if you look at it, how many have succeeded, including Medicare? Medicare is looking to run out of money in the next 5 years. Social Security is as well. So you hear those in the headlines. As far as offering Medicare to retire or Medicare Advantage program to the retirees, benefits are much better. You've heard that. This is the third person to say that. The benefits are much better. The savings is great. I mean, by the board. I'll say one thing, and Michael brought it up, and I'll get to it in a minute, but I've done some research because this is kind of my first large group rodeo. We did Lincoln Parish for 1-1. I was not involved with Lincoln. I have a person that works over in Monroe that handled Lincoln. So this is kind of, I've had to do some homework on Medicare Advantage. We have a department in Blue Cross, it's called the Government Department. That's who actually supplied the quotes. They report to our chief attorney, and so that's under a government program, separate from sales and marketing, which I'm in. But as far as the Medicare Advantage goes, I asked somebody, I said, because I talked to Mr. Bass, and I too have some loved ones. One in particular that's sitting back there in the back row, my mother's a retiree. So the first thing that's going to happen is whenever something new comes available, who's she going to call? She's going to call me. And if I steer her in the wrong direction, I can't live with myself. So I've had to do some homework on this Medicare Advantage program. And so basically, the benefits are better. There's dollars to be saved by the board. Depending in dollars to be saved, even, well, not necessarily in your instance because you don't charge anything for Medicare. One of the few programs that don't charge it for a retiree with Medicare primary. So there's some savings for the board. There is, and Mr. Bass, you've asked it twice, and you asked me in a particular deal because you have the same situation that I'm in. And so I asked the question, I said, man, this is just, everybody is a win-win, win-win-win. And so where is the catch? It smells too good to be true. There are some situations where Jason said, keep in mind, insurance carriers get a pot of money. How they manage that money increases their profits. How much they get to keep of that increases their profits. So I said, okay, zero copay except on the emergency room for Blue Cross, $50. There is benefits that they have to pay out right now. So and actually that $50 goes to that $1,000 maximum, by the way, that you had mentioned, Glenn. Since I had the mic, I wanted to clarify that is a separate out-of-pocket in addition to the prescriptions. But what happens is there may be a little bit more red tape to jump through to get a procedure done. And I'm being as transparent as possible because I don't want folks calling because it's the Cross and Shield, and I represent the Cross and Shield. And so let's take, for example, and I'm just throwing out a hypothetical, and don't hold me to this because I can't get a straight answer from my folks on what red tape has to actually go through. But if you think about it, if they've got a pot of money and they want to keep as much of that money, do they try to put roadblocks for members to get in front of so they don't actually spend that money? And the answer is there is some red tape. For example, if you have a knee surgery done and you're on the current plan with self-funded, and there may be a pre-authorization. Everybody's familiar with pre-authorization. You got to get it approved before you have the surgery and so forth. there may be some different avenues with Medicare Advantage. And again, I'm being as transparent as much as possible. There may be some different things that they may have, some different additional steps they may have to do. There may be a pre-auth. They may say, oh, do this rehab. They may say these things. Again, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on Medicare Advantage. I just want to make sure that the board has a clear perspective in making a decision. I sat in that seat for 11 years, and as much information that I had to make a good decision for the taxpayers and for the retirees and for the active employees, the better I felt and could sleep at night. So I'm just outlining a few things that have not been mentioned. There is a great savings, especially if you get all of them over. I've seen the numbers, 3.3 or 3.8 million a year. That's no thing to sneeze at, but you have to outweigh the risk. And it was kind of explained to me pretty clearly by a VP of underwriting at my company. Is there going to be disruption? Sure, there's going to be disruptions. There's going to be some prescriptions that aren't covered at a certain copay or whatever the case. There may have to be a certain out of pocket on a prescription. Yeah, there's going to be disruption. How much disruption? We don't know. There's being reports being requested. We're running reports. We're making sure that we provide all the information so that you can make a sound decision. So disruption, how much, and the risk is how much are you willing to take on the disruption? Is it worth the 3.5? Is it worth $1 million? Is it worth that? It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. So to sum it all up, and I'm sure my 3 minutes is up. I don't think there's a clock going, but to sum it up is that y'all have got some considerations to look at. A lot of money on the table to save the district. And in these trying times, this budget, as you look at budgetary issues and sales tax revenue down and so forth, you've got to look at all angles just by being a good steward of taxpayer monies. Now, you got other things that are coming into play. You got retirees, you got actives that are fixing to retire that are looking, oh, what's going to happen? Michael mentioned something about the LSA. LSA, Louisiana Sheriff's Association. We have 43 parishes in the state. They just implemented this Medicare Advantage plan. How they implemented it is, you've heard people say, well, you got to increase your premium to incentivize them to it. If you take the benefits and line them up side by side, which I just went over, the benefits are better on the Medicare Advantage plan versus the self-funded plan. How they did it is they said, we're not going to increase the retirees' premium. We're going to incentivize it by saying, hey, we offer you a better benefit over here and just keep them at zero. Now, did that not quite spike the increase? Sure, it did not. But in the first year go around, and this is just thoughts because thoughts are bouncing everywhere. And the LSA is about 75,000 members. So it's a large group, much larger than the school board. But they said, hey, first go around, we're going to offer the program. We're not going to make it mandatory. We're going to say, hey, here's a benefit. You want to take it. No change in premiums and so forth. Many other companies start charging for the current plan and then make the zero copay, zero premium for the Medicare Advantage plan. And also they get a better benefit. So sum it up, the insurance company does win whenever Medicare Advantage is in there. How they manage the money depends on how much they actually get to keep in their pockets. You do lose control of it. This is a fully insured product. So if Blue Cross doesn't manage it right, they lose money. They can't change your rates for 2 years, but they will lose money. After that 2 years, if they haven't managed the money correctly or if they've had some bad luck, like y'all have had this year. Y'all have had a bad luck with claims, large claimants. It has been the worst I've seen in being resolved over 11 years. 18 large claimants at 50% of spec, that's the worst I've ever seen it. But you can count if Blue Cross hasn't managed the money or hasn't tightened, that's not a good term, hasn't kept as much as they need to and they've paid out more, the rates are going to go up. But you get a benefit for the 2 years. Any questions while I'm up here? I've got the floor, so I like speaking.
You want to give it up?
Mr. Bass.
Okay, so again, you and I have had conversations back and forth because, like you said, your mom's sitting there. I've got somebody that I love dearly. The way it was explained to me, though, is when we started down this process, it's funny to me how, and I've been carbon copied on some emails that, you know, I think the first quote from Blue Cross on the 16th was one rate, and it's come down and it's come down. Same thing with every other insurance company, that they continue to, for lack of a better term, sharpen their pencil and continue to pursue our business. And so what I didn't understand is how they establish their rates, and one may be so much less. The way it was explained to me is there's something called a star rating, and the higher the person's satisfaction with the care, the higher the reimbursement rate for the insurance company. So where they also right now, there's nobody following up with our retirees, making sure that they got their needs met. They're making sure that they got the level of care they were comfortable with. The way it was explained to me too, that's part of the star rating and their reimbursement on this too. So there's a financial incentive, as I understand it, for these Medicare Advantage companies to make sure that your mom and my loved one are happy with the level of care that they received. And if they're not, the reimbursement or the profit would go down in that instance. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that I'm correct on one instance and go back to the two nurses. Those people follow up with care whenever there is a major instance, whether they go in for surgery or somebody has cancer or whatever the case may be. So currently you are getting a part of that service on follow-up, okay? So on your large claimants, okay? So making sure they're taking their prescriptions, making their sure they're taking their blood, they're checking their blood sugar levels, making sure they're getting their diabetic medications. So those things are still going on without any incentive. Now, when you say the star rating, that's one of probably about 30 items that help get reimbursement and get that star rating up. Another thing that helps is because of those different ratings that or different quotes that you've received, membership helps tremendously. So what they're saying is, we will give you a rate at this here because we know we can get here to get our membership up and possibly get a half more star from the federal government to get that reimbursement up, if that makes sense.
It does, but it also sounds like private business like Blue Cross or Humana or any of these, they're getting rewarded for efficiencies that may not be occurring with the federal government when they just have. Okay, so
yeah.
So private business may be actually doing the job better than government in this circumstance.
It could be, and I think that's what, without getting political, I think the administration now, Medicare Advantage, there's a reason why there's 25 companies, because there's a huge incentive. So yes, they feel like that private or not, Blue Cross is actually nonprofit, but private companies can actually do a better job than government.
So, if you don't want to answer this, I'm not going to press you either, but you said you're going to talk to your mom, and I asked you this question in private too, and you're going to have to be the one that says that. So when I go to my loved one and say, whether it's Blue Cross, United, Aetna, whoever we go with, what do you tell your mom, and what would you recommend that I tell her as far as knowing that the benefits are better or equal?
All right, so you've put me on the spot. I'm going to fire back at you. If it's Blue Cross, it's a different story. So if it goes with, y'all go with Blue Cross, we'll have a different conversation than when you go with United Healthcare or not. So I've got to do more research.
Okay.
And so
that's fair.
I've got to make sure that I cross my T's with a Sharpie and a thick Sharpie rather than a pen and dot it with a Sharpie, because I don't want things to happen that I may have been able to control. And I get emotional, but I have to make sure that I don't know. I don't have an answer. So yeah.
I just have one.
Ms. Brotherton.
I just have a statement. The ladies that you were talking about, when Bob went through his cancer last year, there was one of those ladies that she called him all the time and checked on him. So that is really, they really do that. when
Yeah,
you did that?
I don't think folks know, we're in the building over there at Ashley Ridge, and it used to be the old food line. I think my office is in the frozen food section because it stays frozen over there, but we're over there, and we have some hidden gems over there that we probably don't tout enough, but that is one that we definitely strive to do because it's a win-win for you, for the school board, for Blue Cross and everybody whenever you can
Yeah, when she
help.
started calling, I told Bob, I said, she wants you to get well real quick. 'Cause we're spending
Well,
way
and
too much
again,
money.
that's looking out for
Yeah.
what the school, she's looking out for not only the well-being of Mr. Brotherton,
Yeah.
she's looking out for the school board and everything else.
But
So,
she
yes.
did, she did check on him all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad, are those two dedicated for the sewer
There's
system,
one-
or are they
there-
just for the area kind of?
They're just for the area, One, so we have the other, we have a board across the river, it's a little bit bigger in size, but it was all purposed on that one, and then now the piggyback, we got two that dedicated to that, so yes, yeah.
Cool.
So are those just for major procedures that they're following up?
Yeah, so what it is it's for people, like I said, they get a list every day and says, okay, these people are in these chronic conditions. The quicker we can help these people get better, the better they get, and the more savings. Even Blue Cross saves on our fully insured block. So yes, it's mainly when they get into disease management or some kind of chronic
So
condition.
is that the same case on Medicare Advantage? Is it just the major procedures that are followed up on, or is everybody's level of care?
I'll have to ask that question. Again, I apologize for
That's fine.
not being able to answer that, but I'd have to ask that question.
Well, and I'll comment here, but I think it sounds to me like this is a plan that we could benefit from. I think we still need to, beat the horse a little bit more to make sure that this is, before we make a decision for our retirees, we got to ask a lot more questions. But the one thing that is obvious to me is that if we go this direction, it sounds like we are going to have to get in a position where we are going to have to steer our retirees to the Medicare Advantage plan to the financial benefit of the school board during a time that we got some financial needs here. I want to make sure over and over and over again, and you'll probably hear it if we have 7 meetings about this. We're going to ask the question over and over and over again: are retirees with Medicare losing benefits? Are they losing benefits? Are they losing benefits? Because we want to be very, very, very sure. I know everybody up here feels the same way that I do about that. Are they going to lose benefits? We've heard a little bit about their, some clarification around what maybe that could look like, and may and it may not. I think we're getting some more information on the drug plan as far as who's going to maybe see an increase in drug costs, or who's going to see a little decrease, or is there going to be an issue with that? But I think the board, as we start looking through this process, I think we have to see it through the eyes that we are going to have to steer if we go with this. I'm not saying that that's the direction we're going, but to look at this as a benefit to the parish at no benefit losses to our retirees, we are going to have to make the decision on this. We're going to have to do something in this plan to steer the current retirees to move to the Medicare Advantage plan. That's not going to be a fun deal, because nobody likes change. I do think there's going to be a host of people that said, you know what, I've worked for the school board for a very long time, I'm a retiree. You've always put us first. You've always put us first when we're employees. You put us first when we're retirees. And yes, if I got to fill out another application to go get on a plan with a benefit that looks similar, or please ask this question for me, Dennis, before you make this decision. And we're going to continue to ask and ask and ask. But I want to posture it in the right mentality of the board, is that at probably when we're not steering or giving a great benefit to moving to the Medicare Advantage plan, we're probably it's probably something that's not going to work. So it's a big decision. It's a huge decision, because anytime you mess with retirees that, yes, you promised something to, I believe, I mean, and on that, I believe that if we promise them we're going to give them this benefit and we're not going to charge them a premium, once again, I'm going to ask more questions about coverage. But I do believe if that is an option and we're saying there's zero coverage here and this is what it looks like, I don't think we're breaking a promise to our retirees. I may be different than some other people, but I believe that if this is it either has to be a movement toward the Medicare Advantage plan, or we stay where we're at. And I think it's not a force. I don't think we're going to set it. I wouldn't be in favor of a mandate that you move over, because some people just say, you know what, I don't mind paying a little extra premium dollars to stay where I'm at. There may be some people in that posture, but I would assume that most people, if we put this out there, I think we're putting it out there because we think it's of equal benefit. So if we put this out there, I think hopefully that our retirees would say the school board has our best interest in mind, and they've beat the horse and it got up, and they knocked it down and beat it up some more, and they have our best interest in mind, and this is what it looks like, and there's a zero premium dollars that go along with it. And this is not Dennis Bamberg saying I'm for this. This is Dennis Bamberg saying I need some more information. But I think for the savings that the board's looking like to attack this situation, we're going to have to do something to move most of the retirees over based on adding premium to the current plan, and taking away the premium and adding it at zero cost to what we're currently doing. So that is not going to be popular with some. Some are going to take it in stride and say, hey, no big deal, it's a good benefit for $0. Others are going to say, y'all are crazy, what are y'all doing? But I think we need to continue getting information. We can't do this in one meeting. And so, sorry, I'm doing like Jason now, I'm hitting the mic when I'm speaking. Sorry, buddy. So I just wanted to make that comment. Mr. Backhouse.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to tell you what the ones that I've talked to have told me is that the board at one time, none of us were on it, made a promise to the retirees that they would pay their insurance if they turned down a pay raise. And I think Ms. Bamberg has a copy of the minutes when that was said. That's what I've been told. So I am concerned about the promises made in the past to these retirees. The amount of money we save is fantastic, I see that. But I also think we got a big problem if we don't include retirees on some of this input. We've heard from Jason, we've heard from Michael, we've heard from Brad. I hadn't heard from a retiree yet, except not here.
There's an empty box out there.
At here. Yeah. Well,
I'm sure as we get through this, we'll have a lot.
Very few of them knew what we were doing tonight. Really.
Well, and we're not making a decision in one night. And I honestly think that the box probably is going to fill up one night when we're having a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a good thing, because
Well, that's kind of why I brought up the survey thing. I mean, are we going to ask them what they want? I mean, I don't know. Or just say, show up. Those are just things we need to consider.
I agree.
But we're still not taking anything away from the retirees, right? We're still not taking a benefit away from them that we committed to give them.
Still verifying.
Right.
Yeah.
So still verifying, just to go to Mr. Bockhouse's, if all benefits are equal and better, and the Bossier Parish School Board said that they would pay the premium for the Medicare Advantage, thus living up to our promise of where we are going to take care of our retirees, and again, we're still looking for information, but I don't think we're breaking our word in doing that either. So it's more of a statement than a question, but if we offer that as an option and offer to pay for that, I also think we're living up to our word. If, again, the benefits are equal or better than.
I don't get to light too much, but I want to thank y'all for taking leadership in trying to steer the parish and trying to get school back open in this time. I've got 2 in the school system, had 4 at one time, and I got many nieces and nephews in the school system, and I live in the parish, but I wanted to take this opportunity to thank y'all for helping and getting things back on the ground, and I appreciate the time and effort that you put into this, because I know it is a lot of work and so forth, and y'all have some heavy decisions to be made. So I'm available if you have any questions specific, off Blue Cross in general, whatever the case, but I'm available at your beck and call whenever if you need any assistance. But thank you all if y'all don't have any
Thanks,
other questions.
Brad. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Brad.
I'd like to say too, Mr. Bamberg, that he takes after his mother when he starts talking. I don't talk.
And Nisha, I'm sure this is probably your next statement. That's Medicare Advantage. It runs in a parallel world with an egg whip.
Not really, but Jason will explain more of that. Actually, the options that we're presenting to y'all, we can actually implement all of them. Is actually, we can implement all, and it would affect different portions of our population. And so Jason will explain how the other 2 work briefly. I know Medicare Advantage was the big scary one that we were worried about. I knew that would take the most time, which is why we put that one first. I'm gonna let him run through the other 2 real quick, and then I'll come up and give y'all a brief summary of some of the financial aspect of it.
Okay, thanks, Nisha.
Try to get close enough to this thing without hitting it. There's such a-
Too late.
Everything's slipping. I'm gonna go over some stuff, and I'd like to make a little clarification. Yes, Adam Bass, there's inefficiency, and some of that inefficiency is some of the stuff we're going to talk about here, particularly with the closed formulary. Unfortunately, your plan and every plan out there is seen as a revenue stream by the drug manufacturers. They care more about profits in the end than they care about producing a drug that cures somebody in many instances. Many instances over time we've found drugs that become a combination drug. You know, a few years back we had to exclude a drug that was called Duexis, and Duexis had a combination of Prilosec and ibuprofen. And the 2 drugs together cost $40, but when they put them together, it costs $2,300. Okay, so I've seen some of the things they do. With the closed formulary, what we would do is there would be a list of drugs that are approved that would be covered by the plan. If it's not part of the formulary listing, it's excluded by the plan, unless somebody could prove medical necessity through an appeals process. We look through this data. We've looked through this data for 3 or 4 years now to try to look at to see what the cost savings are and try to equate how it would impact. I've shared information with Nisha. I've shared stuff with Frank. There was insurance committees before that we looked at it on back in 17. When we look at this, we've got 180,000 prescription drugs that are filled every year on the health plan. If we went to a closed formulary, 1.6% of those prescription drugs would be non-formulary. It would affect 7.5% to 9% of the population that are getting prescription drugs, about 775 people. If you close the formulary, it would save the plan about $1.4 million is the projection that's shown. Closing the formulary is taking some inefficiencies out. Some drugs that cost more would be excluded because of a less costing drug that's equally on the market. One manufacturer over another, we get a bigger discount, we get a bigger rebate. Going to a closed formulary, we can do it on the entire group. The Medicare Advantage, or the retirees with Medicare move to the Advantage plan, you still got about $1 million worth of savings on the actives and retirees without Medicare. Closed formularies also benefit you from a new drug coming to the market. A new drug coming to the market that is unproven is not put on the list until it is proven. So you can stop such things as this Duexis thing from coming in and having an impact on the plan until it can be verified as what the cost is. Because today, if it's FDA approved and it's written by a doctor and it's not excluded, it's covered. So it protects you. Number one, it steers them to the lower costing drug. Number two, it gives you some advantage to stop things going forward. There are things that are always going on in the prescription drug world, and that's been probably the biggest impact that we've done over time since the benefit changes in 15. We've also closed some things off as far as drugs that were excluded, brand drugs, to reduce the cost of the plan. Prescription drug cost is the one that's escalating the most. Fortunately, we've been getting increased rebates as well. But that's a very brief overview. We've got all the data as far as how many people it impacts. We've actually got names of people that it would impact. There are some that would impact 655 of the 777 would have one drug that was on the formulary that would be excluded. There's 97 that have two drugs that are on the non-formulary, and there were 25 that had three or more that were not on the formulary listing. So this is a process that if you elected to do it, they want at least a 90-day lead time to get information out to the member, send a letter out to the person, explain to them the alternatives to the medication, what's changing, put the information in front of them to make sure that they have adequate time to change drugs. And by and large, if you look at the majority of other fully insured other plans out there, closed formulary has been implemented on the majority of them. If you look at all these Advantage plans, you're basically going to have a closed formulary on an Advantage plan.
So, I mean, obviously, I take a few medications through the parish, and I guess there's generic and then there's branded products, and some of them, I guess, they're prescribing a branded product, which is the same as the generic molecule, and they're equal efficacious. So that's obviously an easy one. Is there a situation where there is, I'm thinking big stuff, cancer medications and stuff like that they're going to say that's not on the formulary now, and it's experimental, that we pay for now, that a doctor is going to say, but they need this, and there's going to be a situation where they say no?
If there's a shift from one drug to another, it's a shift to another drug. It's going to be
same class
of drug. For instance, there may be 3 drugs that treat rheumatoid arthritis, and maybe they've got the best deal from Humira instead of Enbrel or Ozempic, and it steers them to that. Or it may be that they cut the biggest deal with one drug, one hepatitis C drug that runs at $30,000 a month for 3 months. So in those situations, they're steering towards. But again, when we're looking at 180,000 drugs a year, we've got 2,900 out of a 12-month period. So really, it's about 250 drugs any given month that would be not on the formulary today.
Would they be able to break this out of these 775 people, or how many drugs are associated with those people? Would they be able to break that out to see if there is another drug in the same class? And I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, so same class means it's the same molecule. It's just one company
So
makes
a number of the drugs that they're highlighting, you can see it's got a B next to the name, meaning it's a brand. We've got a generic equivalent for it, and some of those are on there. And then, like I said, they would send information telling the person that this drug is excluded and what the alternative would be. I will get a detailed list from them so that y'all can look at and y'all are comfortable with the 200 and whatever drugs it is, and make sure that we're not talking about tier 4 drugs that are going to be excluded. If you get to a situation where it's an orphan drug, you can't exclude it. A drug that treats some orphan disease that there's no other cure for.
Okay, one more question. If they, do they make them, so let's just use hypertension. Are they going to make them fail, make our employees fail a certain drug class before they can go to the next drug class? I know a lot of.
We have that in place today.
Okay, I thought we had done something like that, so they may.
So we've got a number of things in place today. We've got a mandatory generic that says that if the person doesn't take the generic, they pay the difference between the brand and the generic. We have step therapy in place that requires them to start out on the lower spectrum of the drug and move up the classes. We've had situations where we've excluded some drugs, but we could go back and get it done on appeal, and we've gotten several of those done, just to try to, because somebody's allergic to the drug, somebody has a phobia about the color of the drug. There's a whole lot of things that they go through this appeals process. They've tried 5 other drugs to make sure, and if none of those work, they can go back to the one that's excluded.
So you could get it'd be a list of 200 drugs, and if we want to take the time to go through the drugs and see what other, does it also tell you the drug that it could be replaced by?
I'll find them.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Other questions?
So,
Ms. Brotherton.
Jason, so let's say there's a drug that this person's on and there's no other drug that can be replaced.
It's going to be covered.
Would be, okay. So they
And,
could,
and if one's excluded and that's the only drug that works for that person, through an appeals process, we can get it covered.
okay, that's what I'm asking you. There is an appeals process.
Mr. Bass?
First of all, I want to make sure I'm not in trouble, because when my mom uses my first and last name, I'm in trouble. So, you know, when you call me Adam Bass, it scared me a little bit. So I just want to make sure I'm not in trouble.
This microphone, I'm
No.
causing all kinds of problems.
This would affect everybody, active, retiree, everybody
without
across the
Medicare,
board.
COBRA, everybody across the line.
So everybody would be affected by this. And this is independent of the Medicare Advantage, so the savings that you threw out of $1.4 million and the savings Mr. Brockhouse talked about, 3.3 to 3.8 million, you could actually combine those two savings.
Well, not the complete, because anybody that would shift to the Advantage, who
Okay.
wouldn't get the savings on the closed formulary, because all their drugs would be through the Advantage plan at that point.
Actives is about $1 million, though?
The active and retiree without Medicare wind up close to $1 million.
Okay, so you'd add that to the.
947,000.
Okay.
I think I've got it on here. Got my glasses on. 924.
924. Any other questions on that one?
So that's the closed formulary.
Okay.
The second item that Ms. Bamberg asked me to talk about was the AGWIP program. Basically what that is, it would be changing the retirees with Medicare, whether it's A and B, A only, B only, to a Medicare Part D program. So rather than the school board funding the Medicare Part D claims and filing for a retiree drug subsidy, we would outsource it to a self-funded Medicare Part D program. They call them PDPs, Prescription Drug Plan. So we'd set up a Medicare Part D plan for just the employee, or just the retirees of Bossier Parish School Board. It goes into the savings from the federal government. It goes into the discounts from the pharmaceutical manufacturers required for the donut hole that we're not getting today, excuse me. And so overall, when we break it down per employee per month, when we had this modeling done, it winds up being about $59.06 per employee, per retiree per month for the retirees with Medicare. Now, similar to going to the Medicare Advantage plan, this is going to be a Medicare Part D program with all the Medicare Part D rules. We can form the benefits exactly the way they are today, but what the person pays depends on their income. They could have to pay a surcharge based on an income that they're not paying today. There could be a drug that is in a different class or excluded that's covered today, based on the Medicare Part D listing. Some drugs that y'all are covering today on the group plan are excluded by Medicare. Some benefits that are paid through the drug card today are excluded by Medicare when we look at diabetic supplies and things. Those things would be changed to the Part B program. And so if they continued on the health plan, it'd still be covered. It'd just be that it'd be through B benefits rather than through the pharmacy benefit. And
Ms.
Whether or
Smith.
not we could do this plan and the Medicare Advantage plan depends on the shift. You know, if we get down to where we've got 75, 100 people left on the major medical plan as a retiree with Medicare, it probably doesn't justify the expense to set up a plan. If we get somewhere 500, it could be justifiable and financially feasible.
Ms. Smith.
He read my mind, that's what I was trying to ask.
No, I'm sorry.
So the $59, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, the $59 in the egg whip is what comes out of the subsidy, is that?
It comes out of the subsidy and discounts from the manufacturers. So what happens today, you pay the price of the drug, we get rebates back, we get retiree drug subsidy back. We can get up to 28%, but some of it gets excluded based on the volume of the claims, based on rebates we get back and so forth and so on. So today, what we get back is about $47 per retiree per month as far as an RDS number. That's from the filing in 2017. For plan year 2017, we're always in a year behind. And so by going to this, we no longer get the drug subsidy because we've set up a complete Medicare Part D program, and we're getting all the benefit of the federal government subsidies and the benefit of the discounts from the manufacturers that the government requires for them to participate into the Medicare Part D program. And some federal government reinsurance. So it's a separate, just like you would buy a Medicare Part D program off the street for your loved one or for yourself, it's a Medicare Part D program set up like that, but it's just set up for the retirees of the school board.
So this and the Medicare Advantage would be in competition to roll over the most people into those each particular plan. Not in competition, but I'm just saying each of them want a larger portion to go to it to save.
To make it work out for y'all to do the egg whip program and not just leave it the way it is, there needs to be some body of retirees remain on the plan. And you don't need to do that. We can do the people that retire still with the RDS and get the closed formulary. It's just how it shifts and how many people remain.
What was roughly, I mean, if we have 100% move over on this deal?
1.1 million, 150,000, something like that.
So if I'm just doing math, we're getting about 400 if we just left them on and closed formularium.
Yep.
That moves up to 1.1 if we somehow moved everybody, 100% of the population over to egg whip. And if we moved 100% of the population over to MA, it'd be a much larger number than the 3 million range.
Correct.
But independently, if you pull some off, the other one's not going to be as much of a savings.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we've tried to look at it percentage-wise, and again, until we get a contribution level from y'all that y'all are comfortable with, how much shift and where we wind up is going to depend on that number, to be honest with you.
And there will be I'm asking all the financial questions. I don't know where Mr. Bullard's at tonight. Come on. But he made me lose my mind because I was talking about you.
I have that effect on people. The numbers haven't changed. Ms. Bamberg has given us pretty good numbers now for several weeks, and they at least numbers I've heard have remained somewhat consistent. If you can deliver on the product, then we can expect to enjoy some significant savings.
Okay. Now the question now I remembered that you got off my mind real quick. The roll-off period is basically offsets some of runoff. Thank you, Superintendent. The runoff period of this, what kind of does that look like, and I mean, I've heard it and I kind of halfway have an idea of it, but can you explain?
So today you're self-funded plan, so claims are incurring today and they'll be paid at some point in the future. They got to come in, medical claims have to come in, go through Medicare, and then they get to Blue Cross, and Blue Cross processes that claim. I projected 2 months of runoff, claims that were incurred and not reported yet. When you look at a CPA's order, a lot of times they want to do 2.5, 3 times, but based on electronic filing and the time allowance that it takes for them to get back in, 2 months of medical claims winds up being $303,000 a month, $606,000 for 2 months. I projected a half a month of prescription drug claims just because it's filed in arrears. They pay the pharmacy and then they charge all back. And so there'll be some lag there. It's not going to be a great amount of lag, but there's a little bit of lag there.
Okay,
it's
on
about
that,
$285,000.
would the lag also, would we also benefit from the lag of brand new going to a Medicare Advantage plan to, we don't have to pay those, or no, we're not self-funded at that point?
It's a fully insured plan, and that's
Day one, okay.
We've discussed that with Michael. He's going back to the people and asking them to give some relief, and that was part of the relief they decided to give on the admin fee for Blue Cross if you went with Blue
So
Cross.
depending on who we choose, should we choose Blue Cross has offered an inducement on the admin fees to help with some of that runoff cost.
Correct.
And I got the email. What was the total on it?
It wound up being $14 per member per month, per employee per month, I'm sorry.
So it was about $112,000 if memory serves, and they would take that off of the admin costs that they're currently charging us. And that would be an inducement to go to their Medicare Advantage plan.
Correct.
Okay.
To help with the runoff.
Yeah, to help with the runoff.
Okay, perfect. Any more egg whip, Medicare Advantage?
I think I've been whipped.
Closed formulary?
Can somebody order a pizza?
Questions? And I think we've actually handled a little bit of the financial. I don't think that's the most important part that we're going to get to, tonight. But
we do have those numbers, and they are going to fluctuate depending on if we're going to put in all options, if we just want to do one option, what do we actually think we want to put in. There's wide ranges of it. As we said, with the closed formulary, we can do it for just our active and our retiree without Medicare. There's endless options on what we can do with this, and depending on what that is, there's different amounts. Mr. Cheatham mentioned earlier that he had gotten a thing earlier today for the Medicare Advantage that had numbers on it. I actually asked Michael to take that off before we gave it to the board because to me, that was just that one option considering nothing else that we had. I would rather put all the options together, and so that's why I asked that it not be on the packet tonight for the board. Not that we're trying to hide any of the numbers from the board. I want to present all the numbers together. And so an update on where we're at, we do have consultants that we're looking at on the egg whip to see what the cost would be for them to implement that plan. We have one quote on what that consultant cost would be. We're getting a different quote now as well. The egg whip cost that we have is the projected savings from our current Express Scripts, where they run our current number. We would need to then run that through and get some quotes, and so we're starting on that process as well. And so we'll have more firm numbers there. But that is why I did ask for those numbers to be removed, just so that we could consider it all as a whole to try and not skew one from the other. But I have, I guess, a rough range of what it would look like on each option as far as the savings, considering implementing all or portions of it together. So.
And to jump to your defense, the reason it's so hard to determine. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I just want to, are we under a timeline, Nisha?
Ma'am?
Are we under any kind of timeline when this has to all be decided?
We are if we want to implement January 1. If we want to implement any of these January 1, we would need to decide by September.
By September?
By September. Because pretty much all of them, we need a good, 3 or 4 months. Biggest reason is to give time for the changes. We've got to give time to notify the people. We've got to give time for the changes. There's some requirements and other things on certain parts of it that we've got to do. So we would need to know by September.
Sorry, Mr. Bass, you're up next, but there's a Coy Brotherton down at Parkway now that kind of trumps. So, Mr. Bass?
First of all, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Second of all, I just wanted to jump to your defense. The reason there's so many numbers and so many things going on, if I'm correct, is if we knew the magic number of who was going to enroll in what, this would be an easy math problem.
Mm-hmm.
But without knowing the choices that our retirees and active people, our retirees in this circumstance would make, it makes that a moving target. So I just want to, that's what's become clear is the reason it's this or this or this is we don't have a crystal ball to know who's going to choose what.
Correct. And one thing we thought about today, and I know Jason's thought about it, but Well, we've got, Medicare retirees that actually have dependents still on the plan. Well, the dependent can't shift to Medicare Advantage, only the retiree can. So then we're going to have a split plan, and so there's a lot of other factors we're going to have to consider now as well. And so I hate standing up here and telling you I don't know. I really do. And Jason and I, we're running through so many different scenarios. It's like endless options of what we could tell you could happen. Unfortunately, we don't have the crystal ball. We don't know for sure what's going to happen at this point.
Ms. Brotherson.
So you just made me think of something. So we have a retiree that has Medicare and they have dependents on it. So they can't go with them.
The dependents cannot go on Medicare Advantage.
Okay, so would they be allowed to remain on what we have for them?
That's something we can write in, we can protect those people at the rates they're paying. I mean, it's going to be a nominal amount of people. I think there's a total of 32 dependents that don't get Medicare in that class. It's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
And again, we can accommodate them and stuff and make sure that they're eligible for this business.
Okay.
Correct. We will protect them under the plan.
I never thought of that.
Ms. Smith.
Can we set an insurance meeting time period and to discuss this further so that it'll be out of committee and maybe get the information out to retirees to attend to ask the questions that they have?
100% agree with that. We'll have it in Airline Stadium probably. Okay, no more questions. Enough numbers going along with your closing out a budget and starting another budget and throw this in on top. So, Ms. Bamberg, welcome to start of the school year. So, thank you so much for your information.
Thank you.
And we will, I guess Mr. Bass will set a insurance committee meeting to dig a little deeper into this deal.
As soon as I can, I promise.
All right. All right, let's move on to item, let's see, where are we at? 3.07, request taking our administration cost on insurance out to bid, presented by Jason Allman.
Mr. Bass requested that we prepare the RFP, a request for proposal to go out for bids because it hasn't been done in at least 10 years, and to review all the options and make sure that we have the adequate discounts and admin fees associated with it. I built the request for proposal last week, in the process of requesting all the reports necessary. Please be patient with getting the request back in. There are multiple things that have to be questioned, not just a fee, but a PPO discount, how it affects inpatient, outpatient, prescription drugs, dental networks, because it's all wrapped into one. But the process has started, and we will get it back to the board as quickly as possible. I know Mr. Bass wants it back soon, so we'll be pressing.
If we make a motion
If we
to
make a
approve
motion.
it.
If we make a motion, and I've tried to talk to the insurance committee too, and I just figured since this would be a meeting of the whole, if this is something that the whole would like to do, we could make a motion and have Mr. Allman go ahead and execute that.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Cheatham, second by Mr. Dean. Any comments? Please vote. Motion carries. Sorry, I got called. I was thinking about how much you got on your plate as well at this point in time. You and Ms. Bamberg, y'all are battling it out for, let's see, who looks at the most numbers on a daily basis. All right, item 3.09, 10, 11, and 12 are all items from the administrative committee meeting today, and I believe that will be handled by Mr. Bullard.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The administrative committee did meet today beginning at 5 p.m. and there are a few items that do require board action. First of all, the committee recommends the Bossier Parish School Board approve revised policy DFD, tax and bond elections and sales, as recommended by Forethought Consulting. This passed unanimously.
It's out of committee. Please vote. Motion carries.
Item 2, the committee recommends Bossier Parish School Board approve revised Bossier Parish School Board policy KF, use of school facilities, as recommended by council. Again, this is out of committee, unanimous vote of approval.
All right, please vote. Motion carries.
Third item, several revisions to existing policies. The committee recommends the Bossier Parish School Board approve revision of school board policies DJD, expense reimbursement, GAAA, equal employment opportunity, GAE, non-Title IX grievance procedures for employees, students, and parents, guardians, GAEAA, Title VII, sexual and gender harassment, GAMC, investigations, GBAA, compensation guidelines and overtime, GBRC, staff schedules, JCEA, sexually related students misconduct, KFA, public conduct on school property. All of these are as recommended by Forethought Consulting and are in our council. These revisions were approved unanimously out of committee.
Please vote.
Finally, Mr. President, the committee recommends Bossier Parish School Board adopt new school board policies JAAA, Title IX, sexual harassment, and EBBI, COVID-19 public health emergency, as recommended by Forethought Consulting and our council. This was approved unanimously out of committee.
Please vote.
There were no other items, Mr. President, to come before the committee.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bullard. Item 4.01, announcements from superintendent.
Thank you, President Bamberg. First day for teachers will be August 14th, which is a Friday. The first day of school for students, grades 1st through 12, is August 20th. Next regular session of the board is at 6 p.m. August 20th here at the Big. That concludes my announcement.
Item 5.01, adjournment of the board.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Slack, second by Mr. Bullard. Please vote.
That's the loudest.
Anybody gonna argue with that?
No, sir.